Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. The 38th Legislature met Tuesday in an energetic debate on a resolution, one of which called for the resignation or the termination of the Director of the Bureau of Corrections. Although the resolution passed, the Senate members were not all in agreement. News 2's April Knight has that story.
The Bureau of Corrections is not faring too well, and one senator believes that the leadership of its director, Julius Wilson, has a lot to do with the problem.
The conditions at the BOC is deteriorating rapidly under the direction of Julius Wilson.
Senator Kenneth Gittens is championing Bill number 30-0276, which calls for a vote of no confidence on Wilson's management of the territory's prisons.
They range from labor relations issues to inmate population issues to even where we see physical assaults and even murder within the prison system.
Wilson has been under fire since last year for the lack of safety and the ill conditions of the prison facilities. In August 2013, Gittens had already expressed his dismay at Wilson's performance.
I just showed you a picture of a dormitory door and your mouth dropped wide open because you're so surprised. My goodness, this is something that you should be fully aware of.
Some employees of the Bureau also expressed concern that certain promised and funded pay raises did not happen under the director's watch.
He was asked when he's going to pay us, and he said at the beginning of the fiscal year, which would have been October 1st, 2013. It is now January 13th or 14th.
Some senators do not believe that removing the director will solve all the problems at the Bureau of Corrections and that the legislature does not have the authority to appoint or fire him.
A vote of no confidence, asking for the governor to ask Wilson for his resignation, sounds good. But does it really change the conditions?
Supporters of the resolution say they may not be able to fire Wilson, but they can sure send a message to the governor, who does have that authority. April Knight for News 2.
Bill number 30-0276 passed the Senate floor with 10 yeses. The full bill can be accessed online at www.legvi.org. News 2 will keep you updated on its status. Meanwhile, VI Attorney General Vincent Fraser shared some insights on violence in the territory. As part of the local Rotary Club's Practice Peace initiative, Attorney Fraser spoke to members of the Rotary Sunrise Club on Tuesday. According to Fraser, while data shows that crime in the territory shows signs of decreasing, law enforcement officers can only do so much. Fraser says it is the community's involvement that can make a big difference.
I've recently come to the realization that this is the missing element in our effort to battle against the rise of crime in our Virgin Islands community. The community needs to join with law enforcement agencies on the front line to actively push back on the criminal activity in our midst. If the community says to the criminals, we want the drug dealing to stop in our community, we want the murders to stop in our community, we want the burglaries to stop in our community, we want the robberies to stop in our community, then the criminals will have no say.
Police on St. Thomas are investigating 3 first-degree robberies that occurred late last week. On January 10th, at the La Vejita restaurant in St. Thomas, 3 female victims told police that around 8:45 p.m., 2 armed men came into the restaurant and demanded money. The suspects took the women's handbags, $200 in cash, and 2 cellular phones. Again, on January 10th, police were notified of a first-degree robbery that occurred in Alcagata, also known as Simmons Alley. The suspects took the male victim's wallet, removed $9 in cash, and then fled the area.
And on January 11th, police were dispatched to another first-degree robbery in Hospital Ground. The male victim told police that at about 10:15 p.m. he was throwing away trash when a suspect pointed a gun in his face and said, "Give me all you got." The victim said he pushed the suspect away and turned to leave, and at that time the suspect reached into the victim's back pocket and removed his wallet containing $800. Detectives from the Criminal Investigation Bureau are investigating these cases.
After learning that the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services is withholding all Medicaid reimbursements to St. Croix Juan Hospital, Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen decided to write a letter to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services requesting that the reimbursement payments be waived. News 2's Robinson has that story.
Senator Alicia Chucky Hansen jumped in on the action and wrote a letter to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, regarding the agency's decision to withhold all Medicaid reimbursements to Juan Hospital.
I wrote to Ms. Julius, who is the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, requesting that they either delay the payment or waive it altogether, because it also works both ways. You may be aware that CMS has also underpaid from time to time the Juan Luis Hospital, and the Medicare is actually something that we need to have in place.
The federal agency stopped reimbursing Juan Luis Hospital Medicaid patients when the hospital did not hold up its agreement to repay $3 million to the agency over a period of time.
That was the previous administration. They make it clear. Actually, this was taking place under the 2011 and 2012 years. And they were supposed to have partial payments arrangement with CMS. They reneged on it, and of course, because of the cash flow. However, they did not give this present administration an opportunity to enter into new negotiation, which they are willing to do.
This freeze on reimbursements for Medicaid here at Juan Luis will threaten the survival of the only hospital on the island of St. Croix.
If we don't get that reimbursement, it can affect medication, staffing, payroll, of course, and various services that the hospital provides. That will put our people in a real health risk situation and mode.
Senator Hansen hopes that CMS will consider her request to resume Medicaid payments to Juan Luis Hospital and urges other elective officials to join in.
We can't just sit back and let it happen and then become reactionary if the hospital collapses. And so I want to encourage all elected officials to lend a supportive hand for our people.
Shaniqua Robinson, News 2.
Now, while on the topic of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, there's some good news for the territory. Delegate to Congress Donna Christensen's efforts to change the Medicaid match is paying off as CMS announced that the U.S. territories will be eligible to receive 2 increases in the federal dollars provided, thereby decreasing the share that they must contribute to utilize the fund. The territories' match can drop to about 43% and 22% for newly eligible individuals. We'll be sure to have more with the delegate on this story. Also, the Department of Human Services considering the next steps to a third expansion of Medicaid in response to the recent notification received from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Persons who are not pregnant and who are childless will now be eligible to receive Medicaid benefits at a higher federal match, a population that includes the homeless. Prior to the Affordable Care Act, this non-pregnant, childless adult category was not a covered Medicaid group, according to Human Services, so news of the expansion is welcome, and again, we'll have more on tomorrow's newscast. Well, this week, the Office of the Lieutenant Governor informed the public that the St. Croix VI SHIP Medicare office is closing at 1 p.m. all week, and that's from January 13th to the 17th, and the office will resume regular hours of operation on January 21st. Customers are encouraged to contact the St. Thomas office at 714-4354 or 1-800-MEDICARE for assistance. In other news, the Department of Public Works is requesting that no unauthorized individuals tamper with the posted barriers and signs placed near a bridge in the estate Scott-Free or Upper John Dunco area. 7 weeks ago, Public Works Commissioner Darrell Smalls announced the partial closing and limited access to the bridge because it is seriously deficient. Barriers were strategically placed and a weight limit sign to prohibit large trucks or heavy equipment from entry. Officials say the barriers are being tampered with and moved regularly by unauthorized individuals, and this could result in the total failure and collapse of the bridge. Construction on a temporary access road is expected to begin by the end of this month. The economy, it was a disappointing end to the holiday shopping season. The Commerce Department says retail sales rose just 2 0.2% in December. Americans spent more on clothing and online, but they cut back on just about everything else. General Motors says sales rose last year to top 9.7 million cars and trucks. That was enough to beat third place Volkswagen, but probably not enough to beat Toyota for the global sales crown. GM was the top-selling car maker for more than 7 decades before losing the title to Toyota in 2008. This is the New York Stock Exchange with Scotiabank Stock Market Watch. Everything up, the Dow 115, NASDAQ 69, S&P 19. Well, coming up on News 2, 18 new officers, as we reported last week, are now on the law enforcement ranks. The 18 graduated from the Police Training Academy during mid-morning ceremonies held last Friday. We'll have some highlights. Well, as we reported last Friday, 18 men and women swore to serve and protect their community as the newest members of law enforcement. Governor John P. DeYoung Jr. was on hand last Friday morning to welcome the new officers to the law enforcement ranks. 18 graduated from the Police Training Academy during mid-morning ceremonies held at the Mark Marin Center on the campus of Antilles School last Friday. Many were on hand with remarks, including police officials and Governor John DeYoung Jr.
I thank you for accepting the challenge to serve this community as a law enforcement officer. The expectations placed upon us who serve this community in a law enforcement capacity are getting greater by the day. As law enforcement officers, you must be willing to embrace the notion of public service beyond self in its ultimate form.
The members of the police recruit class will be dispersing to the various departments. 14 will be entering the police department, while 1 will head to the Department of Planning and Natural Resources, another to the Waste Management Authority, and 2 will become members of fire services.
We've survived lectures on criminal laws, constitutional laws. We studied accident investigations and VI traffic code. It seemed like forever. Law enforcement is people, and we spent the last 6 months learning about people. What makes them act the way they do, how to handle any situation.
Every action you take or don't take will be subject to intense scrutiny. This is just a fact of life from now on. You took this job because you want to help people and give back to the community. So therefore, go back to the community and enforce the law. But remember that enforcing the law is only part of the job.
This is the class that will walk the path and lead the charge that will help us to get out of that consent decree. From the 14 police officers to the 2 of Planning and Natural Resources, for fire, for WMA, they are all today joining a very, very unique fraternity.
And joining the police department, Renell Bell, Jabari Burton, Clifford Colwood, Vernon Carr, Jermaine Carty, Raquel Dover, Tiana Hunt, Yardona LeBlack, Jamelia Norris, Jesse Peach, Tradisha Pierre, Shanika Simon, Lenisha Smith, Cherval Thomas. Now joining DPNR, it's Kevin Turnbull, Virgin Islands Fire Services, Cherie Smith, Serena Williams, and for Waste Management Authority, Nadine Todman. Congratulations to all the officers. Well, she is at the top of the class. The department's 2014 State Teacher of the Year, Ricardo Richards Elementary School's Mrs. Shaber Providence, was officially honored at a recognition dinner hosted Friday evening at Government House on St. Croix. Governor John DeYoung Jr. and Education Commissioner designee Donna Fred Gregory praised Mrs. Providence for her hard work and dedication to her students. St. Croix Superintendent Mr. Gary Malloy said that if you visit Mrs. Providence's 4th grade classroom at Ricardo Richards, you will notice it's a very exciting atmosphere for students. The National Teacher of the Year honor program began in 1952. The University of the Virgin Islands board members met Monday to approve a new 5-year contract for its current president, Dr. David Hall. Hall will receive an 11% pay increase up to $350,000 a year. According to UVI, attached to the new contract is Hall's commitment to raise not less than $22.5 million in donations by the time the new agreement expires in July of 2019. The amount must consist of gifts of $100,000 or more, solicited by Hall or through fundraising programs he initiates or develops. Well, Governor John DeYoung will be delivering his annual State of the Territory address before a formal session of the 30th Legislature on Monday, January 27, 2014. During the speech, as usual, he's expected to review the accomplishments of the past year and speak to the challenges the territory still faces. Be sure to tune in to CBS TV2 at 7 p.m. We will air the address live at the Legislature. Then at 12 a.m., tune in for our regular News2 Newscast. And then on Tuesday, you can expect team coverage. Don't forget you can also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. He was the most important voice of the American civil rights movement, which worked for equal rights for all. On August 28, 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous I Have a Dream speech at the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. We will share some of the excerpts from the historic speech and more. Be sure to tune in to News 2 on Martin Luther King Day. That's Monday, January 20th at 7 p.m. and 12 a.m. as we recognize the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King right here on CBS TV2. A change in channel lineups for Innovative Cable customers. Innovative Cable TV was recently advised that the Bloomberg Channel and the National Cable Television Cooperative, the organization that negotiates on behalf of small cable TV operators like Innovative Cable TV, were unable to successfully negotiate their agreements. As a result, the Bloomberg Channel will be removed immediately from the Variety Plus package on Channel 157. Graciela Rivera, Vice President of Cable TV Services and Marketing, said, "We regret that our key provider of programming, NCTC, was unable to negotiate a new agreement and apologize for any inconvenience to our subscribers. Additional channels in the Variety Plus package will be launched very soon." Innovative is the parent company of CBS TV2. Well, stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast is coming up next.